It's my great privilege to introduce to you the rock star of our generation, Sardar Gurmastak Singh. He's a fantastic example of a second generation Sikh in America. He's also a full Swarup Sardar and a role model for many of our children. Gurmastak ji spent most of his childhood actually in India and not in the US. He grew up in boarding schools, in Guru Nanak boarding school, and then, which is in Missouri, and then he went to Dehradun to the Ramdas school. And the legacy that he's also passed on to his children, he's taken the decision, he and his wife Arjun Kaur have taken the decision to send their firstborn, a 13-year-old, who is now studying at the Miri Piri Academy in Amritsar, which makes me wonder that as parents here, why don't we have that vision to send some of our children? My daughter turns 13 day after tomorrow. I'm thinking, why don't I make that brave decision to send her and get to know about the culture and religion and really immerse herself? So that's like a really eye-opening thing for me to hear today. Gurmastak ji started as a teenager, and although he lives in Hispaniola right now, he achieved what every Silicon Valley child dreams about. He actually started a website when he was a teenager fresh out of high school. And his first website was SikhNet, which now gets 20,000 unique hits every single day, even 18 years later. He started this website in 1996. And then he also started another website, Sikh Matrimony. And through that, he's had a lot of success for bringing young boys and girls together and having successful marriages. His curiosity and love of learning and evolution was very visible just in my short conversation with him this morning. This is his first time at the San Jose Gurdwara Sahib, and the way his eyes lit up when he described the beauty of the place and the charm was amazing, and it showed that how much he loves to learn and explore and expand his repertoire of all the amazing things he's already doing. So like I mentioned, I know Professor Ajay Singh for the last 18 or 20 years, and it's now my humble desire to know Sardar Gurmastak Singh for the next 18 to 20 years and be able to expose our generation to all that he's done, and I'm sure what he's going to do in the future. So today, Gurmastak ji is going to talk about the universal Sikhi across cultures, religions, and continents. He is actually going to share this talk for the first time, and wish you all the best, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions about everything that you do in your personal and professional life.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I feel thankful that I was invited. I don't claim to be a scholar or an expert in Sikhi, and I've always, from a very young age, in my schooling in India, tried to relate to it as I was born and raised a Sikh. My family are from a very inter-religious background. My mother is, this is when my parents got married, and I am from Jewish and Christian background, but I was born and raised a Sikh. And I had the privilege being in the early days when the first generation of Western Sikhs were starting to become attracted and connecting to this lifestyle and finding this special gift that I feel blessed to have, to be on this path. And these are just some pictures of one of the first yatras that was in Amritsar and in Punjab in '79. This is me in Sanatam Kaur and Hemkund Sahib Yatra. What I really wanted to share today was really just to give you all a perspective of where Sikhi is going in other cultures and other religious backgrounds, and how that journey may be so different than many of you, and with being a Western-born Sikh, many of you might have heard some of the stories or seen 3HO Sikhs and that sort of thing, and most of the Western-born Sikhs, started their kind of attraction in the 60s was looking for some sense of spirituality and something, and then they started practicing yoga and meditation that Harbhajan Singh Khalsa Yogiji taught. And then they were curious, what is this turban? What is this all this other form? And they got into, some of those people were attracted to the Sikh lifestyle. And today, that continues to be one of the entry points that people get exposed to Sikhi. And, you know, I don't preach that everybody should do yoga, and, you know, but I know for myself, I've been raised this way, and for me, it's just another tool, whether it's Taekwondo or whatever aerobics you like doing. You know, this is like a tool for me. When every morning, before I do my Nitnem, I do some yoga. It's just stretching my body, tune up, you know, or if I'm sick, I need some energy, I do a pranayam. So it's not the end means, it's just a tool that has helped me and many others along the way. Going to school in India, it gave me kind of a different perspective. And let me just skip ahead a little bit. I don't know, maybe some of these went through. This was Guru Nanak for Centenary School. But when I was there, you know, I realized, coming from a Western background, you know, you could do whatever you want to do, and you could say what you want. And when I went to India, it was like, it had to be, your teacher said it was this way, or you get one slap, you know. And, you know, it was kind of an interesting mix of all these there was a group of 100 students who went, and, you know, we were all these Western kids like, yeah, we can do whatever, you know, and we caused a lot of trouble. And, you know, the teachers were, you know, they were quite frustrated. But it was kind of interesting, the different cultures coming together. And I feel like that experience has helped me a lot in the work that I do at SikhNet, and being a bridge, having grown up and raised a Sikh and spending time in India, but also understanding the Western psyche. Because a lot of in my view, the propagation or the understanding of Sikhi is really just a matter of communicating in ways that whatever culture or person can relate to and understand. You know, somebody like a Gyani from Punjab who comes, his way of describing things and the language barriers and the things are so different. So it's really important to change the frame of reference, like for our kids who are here and they're growing up here in America. How do you give them that spirit and that enthusiasm and love for Sikhi in the way that you all have, and give them that so they value it? And you know, I don't have the answer to that, but I just share my own experience. And I have found that, you know, since I was young and I was, you know, a white kid in India and I stood out, everybody stared at me, and here in America, everybody stares at me. And it's been pretty challenging. And I've had to, you know, like when I started SikhNet, I was like, right away there was like, you know, there was a lot of people that appreciate it, and then there was like the hate. It was intense. I was just, you know, 17, 18 years old. You know, I was innocent, just trying to, really just trying to share, put together some things for youth that we can support each other, and that was hard. And I think that what I found is that the Sikhi that I connect with and I relate to is when I think of Guru Nanak and his ever overflowing compassion and his way of just accepting everybody with love. And I think that that's one thing that I really try with SikhNet to be accepting. And like I.G. Singh was saying, there's no one perspective. We all have our frame of reference of the way that we were raised. We were told this is how you do things, and so that's your camera that you're looking at the world. But you know, I've had other experiences, like when I was a teenager and I came back to America, I was, you know, I was doing my teenage thing. You know, I was going out to clubs, I smoked, I drank, I started shaving my beard. And at that point, one could say, you know, bad, and keep me out of the Gurdwara, or, you know, criticize me. And, you know, there was some family, that other people that helped me through that phase. But at the same time, the things that I learned from that were priceless, that I feel like I had to go through that to then appreciate what, I had to get so low that it was in the mud, in the dirt, where I felt what this whole lifestyle was about. And I think sometimes we're quick to criticize and to judge others, when sometimes that's the experience that that person in their own moment has to go through in order to find this path. And I think our kids and everybody around us, we're all on our individual journeys. And so, you know, I'd probably say my one proponent and thing that I love and I used to blog about was really about acceptance and about understanding, and that really for the message, the universal message of Sikhi is really a universal message. And so whenever somebody is there with a different perspective or different view, I try to acknowledge, like, okay, I catch myself before I start like judging whatever they're thinking. It's so, a lot of it's just being more conscious. And so one of the things I had a lot of different things that I wanted to share, but I wanted to just at least give you a little intro of where I come from and you know, why I'm doing this sort of work. And in the past 10, 15 years, other communities have started sprouting up. You know, there's originally Mexico was one of the, not New Mexico, but the country Mexico, you know, was one of the places that, you know, there was a big, let me just see what there was a big community of Sikhs there, and you know, now that community has grown a lot. You know, but in the very beginning, you know, it was just like, you have to realize, if you're coming from another country, you don't know any Punjabi, Gurmukhi, or anything, and you're trying to like grasp just the basics of what is an ardas, what is prashad, why do you bow your head down to the Guru, what is the Guru, I mean, all these things, everything, and then you have the language differences. So it's like really all these things for all these new cultures had to be established from scratch. There was no like Gyani to necessarily just show the way, because in many of these communities they didn't speak the language. There was a whole, so it's like each of these communities have had to start from scratch, so to speak, and learn, and they're all making their own mistakes and figuring out these things. And I think it's imperative that in order for Sikhi to continue, there has to be, you know, like you have to take that kind of understanding of the cultural factors that are playing into their relationship with that. And you know, I just wanted to share, you know, one thing in the Siddhi Granth Sahib in Spanish. This was an effort by, he's known as Babaji. That was his name. And he had cancer, and Yogaji told him, you know, you should start translating the Siddhi Granth Sahib, and that was in I think in the 70s, and he did that for many years, and he survived that, and then he had cancer many more times after that and survived those again until he, towards the end in 1999, when he was in the very end of that translation, and for him that was like his life project, and he was like on his deathbed basically they were like waiting for the final printing of the Sri Granth Sahib, and he went into a coma, and then he came back and he was like chanting, you know, Mul Mantra, and they showed it to him, and you know, it was just inspiring seeing how you know, all the people were able to understand the Guru's Bani in their own language. And sure, there will be many more translations to come, but that was like the seed or the starting point, which now, when you look on SikhNet, you might have seen the Hukamnama, and you can see the Hukamnama in Spanish, or you can, any of the Gurbani audios that you listen to, there's a lyrics that show Gurbani in English translation, and you can see the Spanish, and that's how that work of those individuals who did that, you know, which was based on some of the other, probably the translations that Inderjeet Singh had mentioned, has kind of spawned new translations that are in their own language. And shortly after that, they had their first Akhand of Sri Granth Sahib, and it was a Spanish translation because most of them didn't read Gurmukhi. And this was that translation was brought to Hazur Sahib on the 300th anniversary of Sri Granth Sahib. And since then, there have been many more kind of different things in other parts, like let's say in Chile, in Brazil. Let's say Chile and Brazil, they're taking what we tend to call it Sikh vows, but for many people who have not, it's a way of affirming, like, okay, I'm going to live as a Sikh. So they, you know, that's before Amrit, and this is like an Amrit ceremony that one of the first that happened in Chile, and there, you know, it's inspiring, and but you know, it's like at the same time, like when we posted this on SikhNet News, and I look at the comments, and there's like people were harshly criticizing. Well, why are they doing blah blah blah? Why are they doing like that? Da 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 da. And I was like, do you not see the beauty? What's happening before your eyes? You know, are you missing the whole thing? Like, and so it can be frustrating. And I know there's always people with different viewpoints, and it's not to say that they were not correct or not, but you know, it's kind of like missing the whole boat. And recently in Iceland, they had first Akhand Path. There's not really much of a Sikh community there, and they a few individuals, you know, decided that they wanted to do an Akhand Path and experience that. And some of the yoga students participated who don't really know much about Sikhi, and they shared the inspiring experience that they had from that, and they've continued to do Akhand Paths. Recently, there was a Akhand Path in China, and you think, God, China, that's pretty far. I've never heard that there are even, you know, Sikhs there. Like, where is that? Where is that coming from? And here's a few pictures of, you know, some of the, they're learning kirtan. And, you know, for them, mostly they're learning, the starting of it was yoga and meditation. And now they're learning about the Guru's Bani, because in many of the yoga meditations, they start with the mantras, with like Mul Mantra and some simple Waheguru. And so through the Gurbani, they're learning the vibration of the recitation of it. And they visited India. And you can just, I'll just play a little, video. You can just see what the, this was just on Facebook the other, let me see, I guess our audio's not over here. The cable is not plugged in over here. Okay. So this was somebody had came and visited or was helping teach the China, chanting Waheguru. So you never know where the Guru's Bani and how. And the way I look at all this is, it's all Guru's blessing and all Guru's his will, how things manifest. And we don't know what way it's going to go, whether it's, for me, it was through my parents who came in through yoga, or somebody else, like my wife, it was the kirtan. When she met somebody and she came in the love of that sound and the kirtan and the lifestyle of the Sikhs, that was, for her, very inspiring. And then, Brazil and other countries, there's these big communities that they now travel, like every year in the summer, there's a summer solstice event that happens in New Mexico, and people from all over the world come. And it's not really a Sikh camp per se, but it's kind of like an interfaith, religious kind of yoga, meditation kind of thing in it. And it's always interesting because you have so many different peoples of different faiths and religious backgrounds, and all coming together with their own, there might be the Jewish people that are this way, or the Christians, and different kind of faiths. But you have to kind of like work together, and you all may have different viewpoints, and that's really where we're going. It's like the understanding the message and applying it to our lives. That's something that I think we all can do a lot more of. And one of the things that I just wanted to share was, I had so many different things that I wanted to share, but time is short here. And with SikhNet, that's what I do every day. And it's been almost 19 years since SikhNet.com was started, and we've been keeping up as best we can with the needs and the demands that people have on. One thing that we did recently, we did a survey, and we wanted to know, because there was a lot of things that we've been trying to keep up with the growth of what the demands were, and we wanted to say, what direction do we need to go? And so we did this survey, and it was interesting. What we found was that it wasn't when people were answering the question, it wasn't what they wanted necessarily SikhNet to do. It was, what do we want? Like, what are our needs? Whether it's local needs or different things that people had. And really what they wanted were, they wanted to inspiring experiences to learn about the history. It was a pretty diverse group of people that make up the visitors of SikhNet. This was about 1,800 people who was part of the survey. There were all different ages, so there was quite a broad spread of people, very, very educated, and in terms of their practicing Sikhs. So there's a lot of people that were very active, strong mother tongue. A lot of them, Punjabi speaking as their first language, and in terms of their heritage, mostly going way, far back, and one of the number one things that they wanted was spiritual learning, that they want to learn more to have that experience. And we wanted to know what kinds of areas, because some of the things varied depending on whether you're a woman in India, or a man, or what your age is. And we don't have time to go into the specifics, but it was very interesting looking at the things that they were asking for, and being more present in the local communities, and being involved, and having experiences that they can connect to and relate to. Because oftentimes when you go to many gurdwaras, for the younger generation, it's harder for them to connect and relate, where most of the majority of the people that are organizing are you know, first generation, or they're from Punjab, and so you have the younger generation, so there's a little bit of a disconnect. And so how do they feel part of that and welcome? And that's where I think the internet and other means are one help for that. So I know time's up, and you know, SikhNet, we're looking at it. We have lots of projects that we're working on, and I hope that some of this has given you a little picture into kind of the other cultures and other religious backgrounds. And I hope that the next time you see somebody else who's a white skin or red skin or whatever, that, you know, give them a smile, or you know, catch yourself if you're trying to like brand them into some box that you've been told that they are this or that, because we're all unique individuals, even everybody here, and I think we're really trying to find the universal message, which is the universal message of Sikhi, which is we're all one, many paths, many different perspectives and beliefs, and now many cultures as part of this faith. So I thank you for allowing me to speak and share a little bit, and I hope it provided some insight and some information. Yeah.
That was very, very interesting, and I'm sure we'll get lots of questions. While we're waiting for questions to come, maybe I can start with a question of my own, Guru Mastak.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how you're showing that without proselytization, which is what a guru said we should never do, and how by living the life of a Sikh, you may be able to inspire others to also somehow get into the fold, or at least appreciate it. That's how Guru Nanak Dev Ji lived his life. That's how Angad became a part of him, right? And another way of doing it is through translation, by being able to reach out to more cultures. And it's so heartening to see Chinese Sikhs and Brazilian Sikhs and just Sikhs all over the world, and how the diaspora is thriving. So one question I have, which is a little bit more into the contemporary view. So this gives you a different perspective on how marketing can be done better, right? So Sikhi does marketing which is not in your face, you know, it's not overt, it's not like CDs being handed out like some faiths like to do, but it gives you a fresh perspective on how to be subliminal, I guess, and do the right thing in a sense. But my question is a little bit different. You didn't talk about Sikh matrimony at all, but in your Sikh matrimony, do you also have the openness to not just other Sikhs of different countries, but also of other faiths who might want to open their minds and hearts to younger Sikh partners, future partners?
I mean, the Sikh matrimonials, I'm sure there have been some people that post that want to marry Sikhs, and though it's not as common, there's definitely the cultural gap, which is difficult. And some Western-born Sikhs will be like, sometimes some of them I know in the past were like hesitant. But I know many people that have been married through that who are multicultural. The ones that I know live as a Sikh family, but they come from different kind of backgrounds. So, but in terms of what you were saying about the marketing and that, I mean, it's really about the when we say Sikhi is universal, but then our actions are different, that's the hard part. It's like when somebody is coming in and learning about, you tell them about Sikhi, but then and then the next step, somebody's scolding them, that to me is a challenge point for Sikhi spreading, because people have to feel welcome and they have to be able to make mistakes, because those are how people learn.
Sikhs are harsher on each other than on others. What advice would you give to them? Because we judge each other cruelly. And actually I have a little corollary to that. When my kids were small, I used to come to the Gurdwara and I used to have like one child hanging on each hand. I'm trying to do langar and my my dupatta is falling off, and it'll be like an older Sikh gentleman who's to come and say, Bibi, chunni kajo, chunni kajo. मैं क्या तुसी मेरे बच्चे संभाल लो, मैं चुन्नी कज लवांगी यहाँ पे. So my question is that what advice do you give so that Sikhs are not harsh on each other?
Another question though was about about the judgment of.
Yeah, most of the time Sikhs are harsher on each other than on others. We judge each other cruelly. What advice would you give to others?
Well, I can only speak from experience of how I deal with that, because you can't change somebody else, the way somebody else acts or thinks. So when somebody else judges me, I try my best to not take it personally, and you know, it's like somebody going down the street, go ahead, you know, go back to Iran, you know, or yells some angry thing, and I just look at it, well, you know, they're not educated enough, or they're angry. It's because I used to feel guilty about I didn't do my nitnem, or I didn't do this, and when I really got down to it, it was like, these are tools, and when I do this, practice this, I get this experience and this benefit. When I don't get it. So, and when I don't get it, then I see myself when I look out at other people and I start finding, I'm like, picking at the faults or whatever things. It's really just a reflection of what's going on inside of me. So I take that analogy of when people are angry and upset or critical, sometimes it's just a reflection of what's going on inside them, and it has nothing to do with me. And so that helps me process that.
Now that's an answer.
Gurmastak Singh Ji, this is from one of the members of the audience. Thank you for SikhNet. I visit your site every day. So could we have a show of hands to see how many people have actually visited SikhNet? Look at that. And how many people have visited Sikh Matrimony?
I wish there was a Sikh Matrimonials when I was looking, but anyways, I found my wife in Guru's way.
Okay, another question. Kids are learning through videos a lot these days. Do we have a plan to get more of this at sikhnet.com?
Yeah, I think the challenge with educating with children is it's very time consuming and expensive, because a lot of the kind of tools or things that you might provide a kid of these days is very visual and entertainment, and so you know, we're working on a pilot project that we had an anonymous donor a few years ago, which we weren't, you know, there was a blog that I wrote about my daughter and her relating to all the Disney characters, and what's her role as a Sikh, you know, what's her identity, what does it mean for a woman to be a Sikh, and how she looks. You know, we see on the TV, it shows Sikhs and it shows the man with the turban, but what is the, so I was just posing a question. It wasn't a statement that this is how Sikh women are, and so, you know, I proposed, well, what if we did like a, you know, an animated series that would be, you know, creating some role models and values that, you know, younger girls could relate to. And anyway, so we were working on that project. It's kind of a cross between the story of Mai Bhago and a girl in, you know, our day, and kind of the crosses between. So we have lots of things we want to do, and really we just go within the support that we get. We have our budget, and we figure out what we're able to do. So we'd like to do a lot more, yeah.
And do you also crowdsource any of your content, or do you pretty much know ahead of time and you seek contractors or people to do that?
You know, that's one of the areas that I think probably this next year that we will do a lot more of, because we've seen with the surveys that there's so many different demographics of people that have specific needs, and the needs vary from country to country. It could be the parents, it could be youth getting ready to go to college or high school and looking for jobs, so there's a lot of different needs, and we're going to be creating a whole kind of different kind of community sections. I wouldn't really call it news, but articles around those different demographics, and we're going to invite all of you or people who would like to participate, whether you're a parent or a business person or have something that you want to basically channel those in those areas. So it's really, we're trying to organize that, and it's difficult because I come here to California and I was like, wow, there's so many Sikhs here, and I sometimes forget, you know, I'm in a little town in Espanola and there's not that many Sikhs comparatively, so it's always a wake up when I, you know, from the virtual world when I'm in here to like, oh, wow. So that's what they tell me. Yeah.
I have two last questions. One is a more factual question, actually, which is close to what I would love to ask also. Can any child take admission in Miri Piri Academy, and what are some of the basic requirements for that?
Yes. The Miri Piri Academy, it's a small school. There's about 100-some students. It's in Cherta Sahib, just outside of Amritsar, and it's a pretty diverse school because there's, you know, it's not, quote, 3HO students. I mean, there's kids from India, from I think over 20 countries. There's one of the students who you saw from China, there's a picture of the China group. One of them, they sent their kid to Miri Piri Academy. They're not Sikhs, but they're learning this lifestyle and practicing this, and so yes, you can do that. And you know, it's in terms of cost, it's if your child goes to a private school here, it's probably less or equivalent. But the experience, having gone to boarding school and spending time in India, the experience that you get there is invaluable, and I would recommend it to, you know.
So here's a final question for you. This is a little bit more loaded. It's asking for your bias.
Okay.
As much as Christians have understood the message of the Bible, how much, in your opinion, have Sikhs understood and implemented the message of the Guru Granth Sahib?
Sikhs and how much have which?
Sikhs. How much have Sikhs understood and implemented the message of the Guru Granth Sahib?
Are you talking about specific community of Sikhs, or I mean, I'm not sure how to.
That question is actually from me. The reason is that the Christianity is like 2,000 years old, even older than that, and since they have been around the world and the Roman Empire has, you know, expanded so much, the Christianity or the Bible has been so much expanded, so much elaborated, explained to the world. So in the last only 500 years, but only like 50 years that we have been around the globe, how much justice we have done to our scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib, as far as expanding it to the world. From your perspective, you know, we actually see from our perspective, but how do you see? Because you see the both sides, you see the Bible side as well as the Guru Granth Sahib. How much we have been able to present this message that Guru Granth Sahib exists, and this is the recent scriptures, and this is well authenticated, written by the Gurus, authenticated by them. So from that perspective, I don't know if I made my question.
Thank you. I can only offer perspective because I don't really study a whole lot in these circles, and probably Ajay Singh can share a lot more in that area. And but I think that we're in a transition point where we're adopting to being a like our kids are growing up in all these other countries, and they're adopting those local cultures. So there's the transition where we're trying to find how do we pass this on and keep them inspired and continue to live this path. And I think in the coming generations we'll see that bear fruit, you know. And you could ask the question of, you know, when Guru Gobind Singh said, you know, 960 million will be, what form, who knows what form that could be? I mean, Khalsa, if you look at just the term in general, I mean, does it mean that everybody's going to be wearing turbans? I don't know. So who knows? I think the message of Guru Granth Sahib is universal, and I think the more that we get out in the communities and interface with other people in the community, the more that will happen. And it's because of the cultural and challenges with bridging that poses the challenge, because then we just become insular and we don't get the message out there or share who we are in a way that people connect with. And yeah, I hope that provides some perspective. So.
Thank you, Guru Mastak Singh Ji. So we've been so fortunate to hear two different perspectives on how the message of the Guru Granth Sahib can be made more expansive, and expanded to like wider audiences. We've heard the more intellectual side from Professor Ajay Singh Ji with a very specific project on the translation. And we've heard a more love and faith and live your life as a Sikh side from Guru Mastak Singh Ji. And they're both very pertinent views, both very fabulous perspectives, and hopefully we'll continue to live and learn and pass it on. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you.
I think we need a round of applause for our session chair also. She did a wonderful job of conducting the both talks. And of course, thanks to the speakers for making it.